gosh, hell of a day, everybody. Yesterday, Invictus was put on oxygen. You had Australia government cutting the funding. Then you had a board member quit. There's also some issues with the PR guy for Birmingham and Invictus Games Foundation. And of course, Birmingham's ballooning weird budget. We are going to get into all of that. But before we do, again, here is the rundown, just so we are all clear what we know we're getting into. And of course, I use the oxygen mask reference because I am here with, I would like to call her my friend. I think she's pretty awesome. Rachel Maxwell. Hi.
How are you, darling? How are you?
I'm so sad you couldn't be with me when the news broke, but I get that you had a day job and you were flying.
I know. I'm sorry. I was like, I really want to do I want to do the lunch, but it didn't work. But I'm here, so that's fine. So
yes, but you are. You're doing the lunch today, not yesterday. Today.
Yeah. But how crazy has the past few days been?
It's been bonkers. Now let's get into Australia, because Australia, I thought, was pretty fascinating. And what I also thought was interesting about it was, they do the budget. Most people know the budget. And we're going to discuss how Australia funds Invictus Games in Australia every year right after we read this quote, because some people were confused. Hold on. Here we go. They laid it on him. Whoops, wrong one. They laid it on him. And Invictus Australia CEO Michael Hartung said the organization was blindsided by the decision to cut funding, saying, given we had such short notice, only minutes before the budget announcement went live, we were deeply shocked and disappointed by the decision. Now that's huge. And just talk with me briefly about how Australia government is funding Invictus every year, despite the fact that the games are not supposed to even come to Australia until 2031.
Yeah, so I did a video. If you go on the Rachel the Curious Pilot YouTube channel, you'll see there's a video that I did that said $11 million in 5 years, which is what Invictus Australia spent, versus $11 million spent 9 days in Toronto for the games. And so this sounds weird, but my whole thing was I was going to compare the two $11 million and be like, look at how much more work this $11 million in Australia did. But then I started breaking down the Australia website, and it wasn't really clear what they did. And they hadn't actually done a whole lot of fundraising outside of their own. And I have screenshots, everything's recorded. And so it was like $145,000 I think they had raised in like 5 years outside of government funding. And so what I did was, I like to lay everything out. And so I made a spreadsheet of all of the different years. So they were basically getting the past 3 years, payroll was 62, 64, and 66%.
Wow.
So
and by the way, I'm going to cut you off just for a moment, because anyone who deals with charity knows that is ridiculous. And it also goes to a lot of the whispers saying there's a lot of people using this as a grift and getting very wealthy, or not very wealthy, but making a decent living off of doing what? What do they offer these wounded warriors on the off years?
I don't really, because they say, well, we send people to the Warrior Games, but even if you look like on the columns, like on the actual, how much it's like, it's under events or something. Like the way that it broke down there, you never saw where which pennies basically, or dollars, very few of it went to the veterans. But I just did that video just as like hey, this is $11 million, but like, they do like classes. I don't know if like the yoga instructors are paid for these classes, but like also 66% of payroll going, or 66% of the funding going to payroll is like, well, that seems a little bit high anyway. But I said, even in spite of everything, right, they still like they still did something with, they still ran a charity for 5 years on $11 million. That was what I was trying to get at, instead of 9 days in Vancouver for accommodations and catering. So yeah, so that's all I was trying to get at. But yeah, $3 million from the government every year, 2 million directly to payroll.
That is insane. 2 million payroll that could fund a medium-sized company. It's insane. And also, you know, when we're looking into the Invictus Games, and I did a side-by-side as well of, here's the US Wounded Warrior Games. They're done for 3 to 5 million. And side by side, of course, with the Invictus Games, which is 60 plus million. And the US Wounded Warrior Games, they fly everybody in. Now, the Invictus Games, they will only take care of the guys who are still active service. It's up to the country themselves, like
the sponsors,
you know, or Invictus Australia, Invictus Nigeria, or whatnot, to fly people in. But then, you know, so maybe they gave some money to fly some guys in, but they certainly took care of themselves first, which is shocking. And then you also have the stories of the Canadian service members who are like, no one paid me anything. I went into debt for this, which is
heartbreaking. It's just, you know, and that's the thing. It's like, when, you know, they're wounded veterans. These are the most susceptible, you know, citizens that we have. And they're good people. These people signed up to be in the military to, you know, to give back. And it's just like, and then yet people just years on, they just keep taking and taking and taking. And I again, like we've said it before, we're not knocking the games. The games is a great idea. Warrior Games, awesome. Right? Like, you know, the idea of the Invictus Games is fantastic. Like, I think it's wonderful to help out our veterans, but actually help them out, right? But also, like, actually have the money get to them, right?
Also, at this point, is it really about the games, or is it about a concert? Is it about, you know, paying someone like Katy Perry $5 million to show up, do a concert, and everyone gets a photo op? Because nobody knows the names of these guys who are playing in the games or who are competing. We also don't know what kind of support they're getting on the ground. So, you know, it's like, where's your community? And also with the community, again, only 532 wounded veterans from around the world came. So how many wounded veterans are in Australia that are participating in the games? Because frankly, Australia government has some pretty good programs for veterans.
Yeah, they do. I mean, and if you look at the sort of, I've been poking around at like just veteran affairs throughout the Commonwealth. They do fabulous work. But what I don't, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's, you know, the funding's been cut. Invictus Australia will have to turn to legitimate fundraising.
Yeah, that's a shocker.
Not legit. I shouldn't say legitimate fundraising, but outside fundraising. So
but
it's like,
outside of a government handout, because again, Australia is having a huge issue. Everyone is having fuel issues. Economies are just blah. But you know, I was talking with Tom Sykes about this, and it is my theory. It's just a theory. This is allegedly all that crap. I think that the funding was pulled as a direct result of Harry and Meghan's trip to Australia.
I could see that.
Because I think it was so grossed out.
Yeah. Well, especially all the barricades, right? For the dozens of people that showed up. No, but someone told me they were like, you know, there's a possibility they wanted to pull funding. And this was like the thing that pushed them over. And I'm like,
the camel's back.
Yeah, and I'm kind of thinking, you know what, they might have a point, because it's like maybe they saw, oh God, we had to pay. I mean, because who knows, right? Because Harry wore the Invictus vest, right, when he was there on his last trip. So it could have been a write-off for these guys not to.
He kept saying over and over, Invictus, and I'm going to go and do the Warriors and all this stuff, and you know, raid the wreath in Canberra, even though people are like, please don't. And then, of course, Harry and Meghan were like, this is a private trip. There's no taxpayer funding. And their PR person actually slammed the petition that said no taxpayer funding.
Yeah.
And you're like, don't slam people. That's first of all, that's a bad move. But also, at the end of the day, y'all did take tax money because there were police cars. There were escorts, and some estimates have it as high as $450,000. And I think the Australian public was just like, never come back. Thank you.
They were like, that was a waste of our time.
You were a lousy house guest, an uninvited.
But she had to merch the she had to merch
drama closet. Yeah.
Oh my God. They could have had it all. They just had to sit there and be nice and curtsy to Kate. And they could have had a platform and the men in gray protecting them.
But, and so a lot of people are like, all right, Australia's over, Canada's over, but we have Birmingham. And, it's a big deal that first of all, Melanie Poole quit. It's a huge deal. She's an OBE. She gave legitimacy to Birmingham Invictus, and in fact was brought on to shepherd the games through. Yet somehow 13, 14 months before the games, all of a sudden the job she's come to do is over. It sounds very much like what happens when all the other people who have left Harry and Meghan's employ, they're like, no, she only stayed for 3 months because the job she came to do she did it.
Yes, it was temporary. She wasn't supposed to be like she was a trustee. Come on. Totally. You don't just leave. But I did was put numbers on a spreadsheet. That's all. I cross-checked the numbers. Mm-hmm. You took it. You ran. You're like, here it is. You're mm-hmm. like, she did it from her little cottage in Hawaii.
Yep.
It's like I did. That's all I did. That's all I did. And now we have people jumping ship. We have governments cutting funding. Mm-hmm. We have a communications director who can't communicate.
Actually, it's fascinating to me. One of the reasons, so after this, I do have a very good source in Birmingham, several, in fact. But one of the stories I did is that they were having trouble hiring, right?
Right, yeah.
They had contacted my source asking, would you like to help put the games on, market, blah, blah, blah. And of course, the source said, who's it for? And the headhunter wouldn't tell the source. So finally, my source said, if it's for Harry and Meghan and Invictus games, I'm out because I got to worry about my own reputation. This is how bad it is. And they were like, okay, well, then I guess you're not interested. 2 months later, she gets the same call from another headhunting source and she turned him down again. But my source then did this for me because she puts on events. All right.
Yeah.
And she knows exactly what it takes. And so she did a cost model for me. And, she's minimum 30 million, but that's not what's going to happen because the government has already given 26 million pounds. They've raised 4 million in from corporate sponsorships, which we will get into in a minute. And so if they were not to raise one more dollar, it would still be 30 million pounds, which is like 50 million US. The midpoint is 45 million. The high end is 60 million, which is what they are hoping for, which is insane. It's absolutely insane for most people who don't get it. The Super Bowl basically costs, some of them have cost 55 million. So, and yes, the Super Bowl is only a one-day event. However, it's a Super Bowl and people actually attend and watch. So this I found really shocking. Then I did some more digging and, Boeing is no longer a partner, but they do have 3 official partners. However, the official partners are not giving cash. All right.
Right.
Deloitte,
right. They're like supporting in other ways. Yeah.
Thank you. So Deloitte, and which, by the way, is a huge tax write-off for them. So Deloitte is an official partner. It's their 5th Invictus Games, but it's unclear how much money they're contributing. As it's noted, they will contribute professional service, volunteering, and skill sharing. And also, David Noon, a senior partner and vice chair at Deloitte, sits on the Birmingham Board of Trustees. Other non-financial partners include the Bulb, Trivandi Sustainability Division, which will deliver a 2.5-year environmental and social impact program through to 2027. By the way, that's mumbo jumbo because nobody knows really what the hell that is. And Run Communications, Good Form, and Champions are official agency partners for communications. And to that I say, good job, guys. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
But you've got 11 corporate sponsors who don't want their names attached, and they've only coughed up $4 million. What does that tell you?
Well, I mean, it seems like, because if you look at Dusseldorf, that was what, 45 million, right? So I think they like that sweet spot of like 45 to 60 million, right? So it's 45, I think, and then 63, obviously, for Vancouver. I don't know how much The Hague was.
It's been going up every year.
It's been going up. It's incrementally, like it's
every year. Boom, boom, boom.
But I think I am interested to see if anyone else. Well, I'm going to bring Dr. Chandauka into this because
please do. We need a Dr. Chandauka for Invictus. By the way, just a heads up, I have the names of several people who may or may not be Invictus's Chandauka. We have to wait and see. However, people are mad. Yeah. They are mad. And that is also why Melanie left, because she looked around, she saw what was happening and was like, yeah, I don't want my name on this. I got to go.
I get it. Would you? I mean, if you were on the board where you saw this going on and you saw you doing this, you wouldn't want to. You jump ship. But yes, I think with because Dr. Chandauka told Harry, we can't do the same fundraising that we did before. Mm-hmm. We can't, right? And then we know from Bowers's book that he forced out a couple people from Invictus in the same way that he tried forcing out Dr. Chandauka.
Mm-hmm. If you don't agree with them, you're out. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's a pattern there, right? That's the thing. And so I think I don't think Harry's sitting there cracking the books open and like taking a look, like I don't think
he has the ability. I think when he sees numbers, he just, has a little fit. Yeah. Really.
But it's like, but Dr. Chandauka's been telling him or told him this years ago and was saying, hey, you can't fundraise the same way that we used to. We need to actually see action. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing just becomes the Harry and Meghan fashion show, and then it's parading $300,000 of jewelry or whatever, whatever other thing she wants to do.
It becomes buy my outfit wait, here we go. Hold on, here we go.
Right, while I'm parading around
buy my outfit while I'm supposedly honoring this warrior. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's exactly.
And walking in shorts in front of people who've served. Yeah, I mean we'll see. I mean, I don't in this economy, and that's probably what they're going to blame it on. They're going to go, well, we didn't get as much sponsors because of the economy. But in this economy, in this economic environment, where where eggs in my neighborhood cost $14 a dozen, people don't want to see money wasted. No. I can't tell you the amount of Australians that have emailed me or commented on my videos that say, oh, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so glad that that money is going to go to somewhere else in the government where hopefully it's been put to good use,
Where everyone it's just can make use of it instead of, I don't know, the executives. It's it is very fascinating to me that they still think that this is okay. And I think, when Sophie Chandaka said we have to do this differently, and it was, you're not part of the royal family anymore, and we can't base it off of your name because your brand has a huge problem. Of course, he didn't think so, and try to get rid of her. Now there's a lawsuit.
Thought he was Johnny Depp. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's great. But, that is also one of the reasons I believe that he desperately wants Charles to invite him to Sandringham during the flower show this year so that he can once again associate Invictus with the actual working royal family.
Right.
He's absolutely desperate for it.
I mean, and I think what Harry doesn't realize is that's the only reason why people gave him money in the first place. That, and he had other people running his show for him.
Well, and that's, it's funny because my source said to me today, she said, the issue is, and she's met him many times. She's met a bunch of the royal family. And she said, he's not smart and he's arrogant, which isn't a good combo because he's not smart. He's not smart enough to know it, but he also thinks he knows best. And she said, unfortunately, my dealings with him, he's been very lazy. And we also see that because he keeps saying, show up, do good. But he shows up once or twice a year. The cameras are around for a couple hours. He has a great time. He kicks a ball around or he hangs out with people and they're like, you're great. I mean, I would like that job. But, hey, Paula, you're so great. Thanks for showing up 2 hours a year. And here's all your money. And your bills paid. But, it's bonkers that he thinks that this is actually how charity works.
Yeah.
It's actually a job you go to, not just 8 hours a day, possibly 10, possibly 6 days a week for, if your charity is run right, not very much money.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing is that if you are because I've looked at other legitimate charities and no one's getting paid. No one, they're all doing it pro bono. And it's like, that's people who don't need that kind of money.
Yes.
Should be the ones actually volunteering their time because I'll give you, this is a weird story, but it's like a sticky finger story. So, Steve Wynn.
Yeah.
Steve, who opened the Wynn in Bellagio.
Of course.
Back in the 80s, he was a vice president of the Golden Nugget. Okay. And downtown Las Vegas, you have to pay for parking. So what he did was he thought, you know what we're going to do? We're going to comp because they had a brand new steakhouse. He said, we're going to comp people who come to the steakhouse. We're going to comp them their parking. Okay. We'll say $5, right? So Bill and Jan go to the steakhouse. They get their parking comped and they go, well, we don't have to pay for parking. Let's go put $20 on the craps table. We'll call it a night. Right. And then that's it. And then let's say Steve comes in and Steve has no interest in the steakhouse because he likes the meatball subs down the street. I don't know. So Steve goes in, puts $20 on the craps table. He leaves. He pays the valet $5 and he leaves, right? And a tip of a couple bucks. So the valets began realizing, I have Steve's ticket, which is not validated. I can go into the steakhouse and validate the ticket, and then I can pocket the $5 in cash. So Steve Wynn starts losing money, and he's sitting there with the tickets, and he's counting, and he goes, well, wait, we have more validated steakhouse tickets than we did actual patrons at the steakhouse. And he goes to the valets, and he goes, guys, this is we're renting the lot from the city. You're stealing money. Okay, this isn't like a wash. You're stealing our money. You need to and so basically the valets all protest. They go, no, you're stealing our money. That's money from our. They had no idea. They legit thought that was part of their income.
Yeah.
And Steve had to fire everyone, but that's what I mean with sticky fingers. It's just like people see an opportunity and people are going people. As we say, as flight attendants, people are people. And then, you get $63 million and where's the budget going?
Well, that's the thing is that I don't think Harry, because he's always had everything taken care of him, for him his entire life. He doesn't actually understand what the downstairs people do. And he doesn't see them running and scurrying and doing all the work and all the prep. He just sees, oh, I show up and everything's fabulous. Why can't everyone do this? You know,
the photographers are here. It's fine. You know, it's
totally.
But
but you know, what kills me too is that all of a sudden people are cottoning on to Harry's attitude, and they're realizing, oh, we're kind of being used for his own PR, for his own ego, and the people it's supposed to help, the money's not really going there. It's going to the big show, you know? And hence the personnel problem. Now, as we said earlier, they recently just hired a marketing person. There's still vacant slots. Then, of course, there was this guy, Paul Saunders, this poor guy. Now, he's worked for Invictus for a couple years already. He's, you know, a true acolyte. And they still have 4 places open for PR. But poor Paul, I'm not sure he knew what he was getting into this year when he got the bump up in the role to be the communications manager for the big foundation, you know. And
poor Paul.
Yeah. I mean, everyone kind of jumped on this at once when he, you know, it was a group of Redditors, because he was like, ask me anything. Like, I'm here. My Twitter's open, or X is open. And oh my God, the Reddit group went by.
I know.
And they slammed him with questions. We're like, what about this? What about this? And, you know, and the next thing you know, he goes, these posts are protected.
Just shuts it down. I was like, you are the communications director, Paul.
Yes.
Take the heat, man. Take the heat.
Take it and understand how to respond, not just to the press, because, you know, in this day and age, citizen journalism, hello, everyone has a right to ask questions. And if you want money from anyone, you should be able to answer their questions, or at least, at the very least, this is how I would have handled it. All right, guys, answer your questions. I'm going to collate them, put it into an FAQ, and the answers will be out within a week.
Right.
You know,
That's it.
But instead, it's like, nothing.
Right.
You
Privatize.
know?
Just kidding. No, I thought that was hilarious because everyone was asking about the budget. I was watching it live as it happened, and I just, you know, and I think I sent the redacted document that I stumbled upon, and I said, hey, you know, do you mind if you provide, like, you know, an unredacted version of this?
And they still haven't.
No.
Correct. Like, they still
and
have
they're not gonna. No, and they're not gonna. I mean, and so I just. But I saw it happen in real time, and then it was just like bam, and then he just you know. But the thing is, I none of the questions. I mean, of course, there were some kind of citing on the, you know, cheeky / mean side, in asking him questions, which is okay because people are passionate about it. But, you know, you don't have to shut down your whole. Don't answer those questions, but answer everyone else's questions that ask you respectfully. That's it.
And
that's
I
all you
guess
had to do.
Getting 800 because I don't think he knew. Now, meanwhile, the poor guy, I think he's only got, like, hold on, let's look at this. I think he's got
700 followers, I think.
Yes, 701. 701. And so this poor guy was probably like, well, I guess a couple of my friends will be like, are you excited for the games?
Right.
And be like, sure are. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. But I wanted to end this with a question to you that it's the same one I asked Tom, and I'd like to see your answer because, you know, my source in Birmingham said the games should be canceled because right now there's just not enough runway. However, it won't. And there's talk that immediately after Birmingham games, the foundation will implode. What do you think will happen? Do you think the games in Birmingham will go ahead? Do you think they will implode after? Or do you think by some Hail Mary, they keep running? And by the way, people say maybe they should keep running, but without Harry, they can't. Without Harry, the games are not there. And, it's like Sentabali. Although Sentabali
is still doing well, but
they don't have a big fight. Yeah.
Yeah. If they get a different patron, I think if you have, because aren't the Tyndalls, isn't he a veteran?
Yep.
Isn't Mark a vet? If you want the royal connection,
Mike, yeah,
and royal pay, because everyone loves Mike and Zara, right? You put them in, you give it to David Beckham. I mean, he's not a veteran, but he is a sportsman that everyone adores.
You pair
and he doesn't need the money.
Pair a veteran up with a sports person.
Yeah, he's going to have a wonderful, he would have a lot of pull, and he would have a really good team around him, because I mean, him and Victoria are just everywhere right now. And they're wealthy, but they don't rub it in your face.
I got it.
They're not like, yeah.
But is this a pie in the sky? This is what I hope happens, or what do you think will actually happen?
There might be a hiatus. Because I thought about that. First of all, I didn't think the chair was going to resign. I didn't think Invictus Australia was going to get funding pulled, and because in the United States, as you and I know, rich people, like, nothing ever happens to them. So sorry, I'm just getting over this cold, but I legit thought, I was like, King Charles is going to come in and save the day, and then it's going to go, Meghan's going to wear $300,000 more clothing and jewelry and whatnot and try to sell that. And I just thought, whatever. But
that's not going to happen. The king gave the speech today or yesterday, and the speech was talking about the peerages and how, now you don't have to go through this whole rigmarole to get rid of peerages. And that was done specifically for Lord Mandelson and
the opening. That's right. The opening of Parliament. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
However, it's been pointed out to me that this makes it a lot easier to rip away a crown peerage as well.
Yeah.
So,
which, I mean, we'll see.
I don't know
what's going to happen.
Yeah, I know.
I think the games might happen, but they might be really small. But I do think there's going to be a lot more transparency.
Do you? Why? I mean, you've got people like Melanie who left, and she demanded transparency. And now she's gone.
I think from a PR standpoint, because, again, I'm nobody. You're the journalist here. I make metal tubes fly through the sky. You're the one that brought it out to the public, right? But they're going to go, oh, well, Rachel did it. She sat with the numbers. Someone else is going to do the same. Someone else is going to sit and comb through the numbers, because they're going to go, well, Rachel did it with the computer.
Right. But I hear you, but they're still not being transparent about Canada. And the anger in Canada is bonkers.
Yeah, huge.
And it's still redacted. So I love that you're hopeful for that. And I admire your optimism.
Yeah.
But for me, I am just thankful that we've got more chapters of the days of our Montecito lives.
I know. It's great. I know. We'll see what happens. We'll see. I mean, here's the other thing. What if the whole board resigns?
Oh, girl. Well, they won't, because there are several who have been on there for many years, and they make a lot of money.
Yeah, that's true.
So, their bank account comes first. But Rachel, I just want to say thank you so much for racing back from the airport. I don't know if you guys are aware, Rachel raced back to come and be here with us, and she's got a cold, so now I'm like sympathetic gagging too. Thank you so much. Now stay backstage. I'll be right back with you. Okay. And to everyone else, I really just thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Remember to subscribe. If you want everything going to your inbox, go to my Substack, Paula Froelich Uncensored. It's all going to be in the description, as well as Rachel's info, because you got to follow her. She digs up some great stuff. All right. Thanks again. I appreciate you. Have a great week. I am off to the Turks and Caicos. Ha! Bye.